sort of two sides to this human emulation. And what I want to show you first is kind of a little bit of a marketing perspective. I don't really want to do too much marketing here today, but I do want to show this because it has some interesting nuggets in it. So if you'll just indulge me for a few minutes while.
That actually, if you're interested in seeing that, it's available on our website. You can watch the whole thing. There's sort of a lot of marketing stuff in there, but some of the statistics are pretty interesting. And so I just want to quickly mention, in the few minutes I have left,
from a technical perspective, what is it about human emulation? Why does it matter? First thing is that it creates a mindset, right? It helps us, guide us in how we should think about these things, these virtual employees. First of all, we have to think about the initial training of them, just like you would with a person, right? And you have to think about continuing education, right? New stuff comes along all the time. A volcano erupts somewhere, airline flights are affected. That information has to go in. There's a swine flu outbreak. That information has to go in. You have to constantly be updating these. So it helps to think about it that way. Secondly, the human emulation provides us with a blueprint for how we do system development and how we do maintenance. We can always ask ourselves, what would a human do in that same situation? And that guides us in terms of how we react, how we get our bots to respond to questions and so forth. What if somebody asks a silly question? What if somebody asks an out-of-scope question? It's related to the company, but not directly to what the bot's knowledge is. How do you do that? Well, you can ask, what would a person do in that same situation? And finally, and I think one of the most important things is it provides us with a metric. How do we know when we're doing a good job? What do we score ourselves against? This is a common problem with dialogue systems, right? You can measure the accuracy of individual questions, but oftentimes a user's interaction isn't comprised solely of just one question, right? It's a series of questions. People don't often know how to ask for what they want the first time they say something. It requires the system to have a dialogue with them to find out what they're after. How do you score that? So the way that we go about doing this is that we score ourselves based on humanness, right? So we can go back and review chats that have come in, and we say, ask a person, a communicator, a human communicator, to say, look at this question, look at that response. Does that look like what a human would have said? Right? So that's how we evaluate ourselves. And this is important because anytime you're optimizing a system, if it's a speech recognition system, you're optimizing for low word error rate, right? That's what you're trying to achieve. If it's an information retrieval system, you're looking at precision and recall, and you're trying to improve those numbers. So whatever your criterion of optimization is, that's what your system is going to drive to. So since we're optimizing on human emulation, that's where we hope to get in the future. And finally, I can just wrap up by saying that we've kept this definition purposefully broad, right? We haven't mentioned anything about specific channels like the web. So we are interested at a higher level in just human communication in general, anywhere where that might occur, which could be anything that we've got today, SMS, web, phone, but it could be new things that come along in the future. So our ultimate goal is just emulating human communicative abilities. And so, so I just want to mention that that's what we're after. And finally, a couple of resources you can go to if you're interested in seeing that full marketing video. And that's it. Thank you.
Just to kind of ask a general technology question, is there a scripting language?
Yeah, it sounds very similar to what you use. We call it FPML. Functional Presence Markup Language. It's a language that we developed internally that essentially represents a lot of the same things that it sounds like AIML does.
And follow-up question. You mentioned 150 employees.
Yes.
How does that break down in terms of technologies?
The majority of our employees are people who are, I guess you use the term podcasters. So they're the people who do the actual implementation. I didn't have time to get into it, but there's our approach to building these systems is very manual, very hands-on, and so we have a lot of people who do that. And one of our challenges as a company is scalability. How do you scale when it requires such a manual process? Yes.
You mentioned that people were interested in asking the box questions like, "What is your favorite food?" Mm-hmm. Do you lie or do you answer honestly? Do you have the bot lie or answer honestly?
So what we do is we allow our customers to choose how their agents will respond. Okay. So it's really different customers make different choices. Some of them are really into the personality questions and want to have lots of them.
Right.
Others just want to really limit that, and they're not that interested. They don't quite get that and why it's important. And that will evolve over time as they see the questions coming in and what's asked, and then they kind of have a better understanding. One of the things we've noticed is that a lot of people don't really get the technology yet, and they have to kind of see it working and understand what's going on and how it affects their business before they really kind of get a hold of it.
So for a customer example that does want their bot to have a personality, would that bot still, again, tell the truth or still lie? I'm curious as to, because if a customer knows that they're interacting with the bot, knows the bot doesn't eat, right?
Right.
But still might want to ask that question just to see what response they get.
Yeah.
And
so first of all, we never recommend to our customers that they try to portray the bot as a real person. So there's that as sort of a foundation.
okay.
On top of that, we do give them personality, like Jen at Alaska. If you ask her what she likes to eat, she'll say something about salmon, right? An Alaskan kind of dish. And then her dog is a husky, and so she has a certain personality. If you ask her about dating, she says, "I'm too busy serving, Alaska Airlines customers to worry about dating," or something. So they answer the questions and then try to push the person sort of back to business, as it were.
So, 2 mini questions. If the client wants to be hands-on in managing the virtual agent, like changing content, stuff like that, you said you got a scripting language. So, do they have to learn that scripting language? Do you allow them to get involved? That's the first question. The second question is, can you tell us what a score out of 100, like a percentage, how accurate are the chatbots you guys release? So when you did the manual analysis of accuracy and overall human-like, out of 100 chats, how many of them would be perfectly accurate?
Right. So for the first question, what our customers typically do is what we call chat review. So they don't get involved in how to change responses. They will mark responses as bad or good. Then that information typically, now it's different for different clients, it depends on how much involvement they want. But we don't to date have any clients who are writing FPML at all. So the most typical situation is that they will grade responses that will then come back to us, and then we figure out how to incorporate those back into the system.
And why is that? Is that purposeful?
Yes.
On the strategy of the company?
Right, because our process is very manual. It's very it's difficult for a human to wrap their minds around a complex system. If I make a change over here, how is it going to affect something over here, right? You could, if you've got something with that's a regular expression type pattern, and you rewrite that, it may start consuming input that some other unit was expecting. So you can easily break things. It's hard for us to manage that complexity in our head. So we have a lot of internal tools that we've developed that turn our what were they called? Bot masters into language analysis experts.
Sure.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I forgot to
and the second question, if you have a look at 100 chats that your chatbots have, how many of them are like perfect conversations?
Right. So we, for example, I don't know the numbers for all the different ones. Sergeant Star is accuracy, if you will, is like 98%.
98% of chats that he has are perfectly accurate.
Yeah.
Why? Should speak to Sergeant.
I have.
Yeah. So the other thing is that the accuracy, I don't think, really tells you very much about what the goal is. If your goal is human emulation, because you can give an accurate response that is not a response that a human would give. For example, if I'm standing on the campus at Gonzaga, right? My context is I am at Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington, and I ask where the clock tower is, the Gonzaga clock tower. A response might be, it's on the campus of Gonzaga University, right? But a human would probably say, knowing that I was at Gonzaga, oh, it's 2 buildings over to the left, right? So they're both accurate responses, but one of them is not very human-like. And our goal is to get as human-like as possible.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying.
I agree.